Thank you all so much for coming to our fall student session, fall open house student session. Off with a couple of brief introductions, and then we'll do a quick presentation on like student life, a very like a crash course on what it's like to be at MIT very, very quickly. And then we'll look at some sort of sample portfolio spreads. There's people who usually take a tour and come to us and visit MIT get to look at an iPad with like admitted portfolio spreads. And I think it's like kind of helpful to see that stuff. Obviously, probably you all won't be able to come and take a tour right now. So we thought it'd just be good to like run through, maybe ease any doubts or insecurities, whatever. And then we'll hand it off to Nomas, who will give us a quick presentation. And then we will go into breakout rooms where we have wonderful panelists. I think we have 5 breakout rooms with 3 panelists each. I think we have 2 MArcs in each panel and 1 from a research degree. So that's a SMARCS or a PhD. But if you are not specifically interested in their SMARCS or their research degree, I think the application process is probably somewhat similar, and there's a lot of crossovers, so feel free to ask them your questions, and they should be able to direct you in the right direction. So first, I'll start with introductions. My name is John. I am a 3rd year MArc. I am the co-chair of the Architecture Student Council with Ginevra, who I'll pass it off to.
I am Ginevra. Now that I am the co-chair with John, I'm a 3rd year MArc, and I'll pass it off to Mo.
Hi, everybody. So nice to see so many of you. My name is Mohammed Ismail. I also go by Mo. I'm a 4th year grad student, but 2nd year PhD in building technology and a member of Nomas exec along with Zio, who I believe will introduce herself next.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Xiomara, a Zio, she, her pronouns. And yeah, I'm a member of general exec with Mo, and we'll talk to you a bit about Nomas today. But back to John and Jin.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, we'll start with a short presentations, then maybe we'll have like a loose 5 minutes at the end if there are any questions in the whole group. But then, yeah, there we'll move into breakout rooms. After the breakout rooms, we'll come together and just like debrief and share anything that came up, if there's anything specifically that may be good for all of us to know. With that, I will share my screen. First, so we're gonna use this pocket guidebook to share with you the 3 of our MArcs made, Latifa, Angela, and Sasha. So we just want to give a big shout out to them and thank you to them. We've been using this pocket guide to sort of like represent student life at MIT since we used it at the open house in April. You can see it's noted down here. So we won't probably be able to use it next year, which is good. We'll have to make a new one. But so yeah, welcome to MIT. Thank you for coming and thank you for joining us. We want to talk to you a little bit about what it's like to be at MIT in real life, IRL. Obviously, we were there at one point. Some of us actually were not there at one point. We have some first years here that have never been to the real campus. So obviously, we have these sort of 2 realities of what MIT is like, and hopefully we'll sort of be able to hear a little bit about both of those things. I think we've been doing a lot of work thinking about what it means to be virtual and what it means to be online. So hopefully in the panels we'll hear about what it has been like, what that transition has been like. We're in Cambridge, obviously. If many of you didn't know, we're sort of situated on the Charles, right off of Mass Ave. We're in between Kendall Square and Harvard Square. So Kendall's here, Harvard's here, or excuse me, Central Square, Harvard's a little beyond. Central is sort of right between Harvard and MIT, so it's a nice neutral ground for us between the two. But you know, I would say MIT students generally hang around Central and Kendall. In Central, there's a lot of great, you know, resources for you as an architecture student. There's a Blick, a craft store, an H Mart, all the good stuff. We thought it'd be good maybe to mention, like, you know, where we live, how much we pay. That's probably a big question that all of you have. Cambridge is notoriously very expensive, but many of us do live on campus. We pay sort of between 1,000 and 1,500, with a quarter of us paying between 800 and 1,000, some, you know, on the outlier ends of that spectrum. Some of us live alone. Most of us live with 2 to 4 roommates, and a lot of the, you know, the kind of Cambridge housing stock, Cambridge Somerville housing stock is very suitable for living with roommates. So that's usually not so much of a problem. We live with a bunch of all kinds of different people, some from MIT, some from the GSD, some from, you know, all over. Myself, I live with a member of my cohort and one of their friends that they met on a workshop over a summer who went to the BAC. So I think, you know, once you get here, if you live first in on-campus housing or elsewhere, communities form very quickly, and it's very easy to find a good community to live with. Moving to on-campus, so our facilities are kind of atomized all over the MIT campus. So just to kind of like situate you all, you've probably seen like the picture of MIT out on the lawn with the dome in the front. That's Killian Court. And the architecture department and sort of the School of Architecture and Planning is situated largely sort of in this area here, right off of Mass Ave. So this is Mass Ave and this is the Charles. DUSP is to the north of us. We have the Media Lab over here on East Campus, and then we also have some workshop space up to the north. However, that all will probably be changing in the near future, as probably has been brought up in earlier sessions. The dean has undertaken a massive project of trying to unify the School of Architecture and Planning in a single building, and that lucky building is the Met Warehouse just across the street from us. It's right here. It was an old storage building. So maybe depending on when you're planning on coming to us, you will actually transition to that space or actually be in that space. Just really quickly, where we are, so we're right off of Mass Ave, 77 Mass Ave, and this is sort of the front of where you might come in if you're coming to school. So this is actually where we access our facilities during during the pandemic. So we do have access where, you know, MIT has done a relatively good job of, you know, setting up testing for everyone who needs to be on campus. We have a, you know, whole like app system where we go and get tested and then scan to get in. And so when we do access our facilities, we have studios around this sort of like central, we're sort of on the 4th floor up around the top of the dome that you enter when you enter in from Mass Ave. We have studios, crit spaces, maybe you've heard about Long Lounge, lots of presentations and lectures happen there, as well as a small cafe, Steam Cafe, something that we're all sorely missing, a small gallery, and then also some workshop spaces. Next to our studios and very close to our studios is the Rapid Prototyping Lab, RPL, which has sort of a lot of capability. We have laser cutting there, 3D printing, a small wood shop, 4x4 CNC, soldering, vacuum forming, water jetting, spray booths, all that stuff. It's compact. There's a lot of stuff in there, but it's a great space to have so close to your studio. We also, like I mentioned, I'll go back to this map here. Up further north up Mass Ave, we have a larger wood shop, and that is N51. And there we have sort of more woodworking ability, a larger CNC, metal casting, as well as in the ACT workshop, which is over here in the green, which we have access to ceramics shop and metalworking as well. With that, I'll hand it off to Ginevra.
I'm not sure why I'm seeing the fabrication slide. Okay, now I'm on the studio culture. Sorry. So one thing that is kind of interesting. So when making this booklet, the authors conducted a lot of surveys, and so some of these kind of have revealed to us that the typical student at MIT prefers to sleep and work, which I think it's very interesting because I think it's very kind of telling of our culture at MIT, or like how people tend to work. But in general, I think one important thing about studio culture is that it's a lot of the social life happens here. And we gather a lot, and the majority of kind of our interactions happen in this space, especially for, I think, speaking from an MArch experience, I think that's specifically predominant. Next. Are you on the next slide? Okay, sorry. So about regarding studio supplies, yes, a lot of us have, of course, computer and mouse and all of these, but also we also have more archaic tools like pencil and pen, eraser, scissors, cutting mat, and all of that. And then I think one important thing to mention is that we have free 3D printing. And printing on the smaller printer is also free, which it's actually pretty rare in most, to find in most schools. And so in terms of hardware and software and all of these, kind of, as you can see from the polls, a lot of us use laptops, and we're kind of divided between Mac and PC. But also we get Rhino, Adobe, so all of the Adobe sets like Photoshop, Illustrator, and all of that for free, as well as V-Ray, and it's all paid from the school. Next. And so I think another aspect of MIT that is particular to MIT is actually the ability that we have to kind of like have a way to kind of sustain ourselves through the semester. So we have a variety of ways, from RA-ship to TA-ship, as well as shop mentoring in terms of like semester by semester. Full-time RA-ship is around $12,000, and a half-time RA-ship is, and RA-ship and TA-ship is around 6,800 or so. And shop monitoring is usually paid by hour. And other than that, we also have abilities to actually, such as fellowship awards. So let's say if you come in without financial support, you can, the following year, you can apply for a merit fellowship. Or if you come in with with some support but not full funding, you can apply for this fellowship, and you can either have half tuition or full tuition. And then there's other opportunities like MISTI to travel, and MIT DesignX, which is a venture accelerator. So for those of you that are business oriented or want to start exit MIT with some sort of kind of business started or venture started, that's a great program to do that.
Great, thank you, Ginevra. So yeah, really quickly, I'll just run through some sample portfolio spreads. Starting with the intro page, which is something that I think we all probably agonize over way too much. I'm mainly showing these because you can design them as much as you want, but they can also be as simple as you want. You know, just like naming the project, what it is, what page it's on. No need to overthink this part. Maybe some nice key images, you know, model photos. And then making the way to the spread. So I think, you know, something you'll see here is there's a lot of variation, but there's, you know, some simple parts: a title, the year you did it, and a description of the project. Something that our director of computation told me once was that they love to see models in portfolios. So, you know, things that you've made, things that you've worked with your hands, models really help your project stand out or your portfolio stand out. But just simply, you know, photographed well, nice drawings. Some large drawings, some small drawings, architectural drawings are great, as well as drawings that, and, you know, creative work that is not architecture, you know, just simple hand sketches, still lives, or, you know, if you're involved in anything else, stage design, costume design, anything like that. You know, feel free to use color, you know, model photos, simple diagrams that help describe your project clearly. You know, these diagrams aren't necessarily anything, you know, exceptional aesthetically, but they're describing a project, you know, very concisely, you know, which is the goal of this, you know, portfolio, is to describe your project. You know, also, if you're involved in more technical work or technical sides of things, describing your role in team, describing your role in projects, you know, prototyping and design, and you know, free body diagrams are all, you know, relevant in the portfolio setting. Or if you want to take up your whole spread with a single drawing, that's also, you know, fantastic. Or if you want to sort of curate the spread to be more of a story, you know, with precedents to hand sketches, to collages, to something that resembles more of a finished design. You know, and as I said, like, you know, large images, small images, collages, you know, clearly laid out such that it's relatively easy to access the information in each of your, you know, quite unique pieces of work. You know, pastel drawings, you know, process work. Process work is super important to include, even though if it's not, you know, perfectly refined and, you know, Photoshopped to perfection, you know, showing that you can work through these problems spatially is great. You know, early architecture school or design studio projects, and, you know, sketches and you know, evocative images.
So as you can see, there's kind of like a variety or a big spectrum of ways that you can approach the portfolio. But I think, at least in my experience, what it seems to be very important, or I perceive to be very important at MIT, is kind of like the way you approach a problem, and so the critical thinking that goes behind it, more so than the extremely refined drawing itself. So I think they are looking for people also who are not afraid to take a position. And so then now I will just briefly mention before handing it off to Nomas, the architecture mentorship program. So this semester, the department will be running the application, the AMP, which is one of the steps that the department is taking to become a more equitable and diverse place. And this program seeks to match current students with prospective applicants from low income and or underrepresented racial backgrounds. And so, as we all know, because we've been through it, applying to grad school can be confusing and overwhelming. And so AMP mentors can provide structured feedback on various components of the application, from portfolio statement of objectives, etc. And you can find this information on the department website, and as well as how to sign up for it. Thank you. I'll hand it off to Zio and Mo.
And I know we're running a little behind, so take as much time as you need, Nomas.
Thanks so much. I'm going to start sharing my screen while Zio starts us off.
Awesome. Thanks, Mo. Yeah, so Mo and I are here this morning to talk about and represent NOMAS, which is much bigger than Mo and I. We're just the folks that are free this morning. But just to reintroduce, since I think a lot of people have since joined, my name's Zio. I'm in 4th year MArch and a 2nd year MCP. And Mo is...
I am a 4th year grad. I did a SMARCS first, SMARCS in building technology, and then I'm now in my 2nd year of my PhD. And before this, I had a degree in architecture and a bachelor's in structural engineering. And so we first off are very grateful to ASC and the department for letting us have a moment of your time. This is this isn't really a pitch for NOMAS. It's more to showcase some of the work that NOMAS has done in close coordination with the department and with ASC to sort of highlight a lot of the work that's been undertaken with regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion across the spectrum. And this is work that started before the events of the summer, but it's really been amped up over the summer. And so we have a lot that's going on that we're really excited about, and a lot that NOMAS is either directly or indirectly involved with. So we'll try to highlight that. But for people who don't know about NOMAS, it's the National Organization for Minority Architecture Students. This is a rough draft of our mission statement that we keep saying we're going to adjust and haven't gotten around to. But for now, this is what it looks like. We are largely a community that has gathered to enhance the professional and academic experiences of both ourselves and the community through diversity, equity, and education. We champion diversity as something more than just a buzzword. It's something that actually contributes to the community and to the academic careers of everybody involved. Also, as minority students and allies, we aim to provide a system of support and camaraderie. And so a lot of our work is geared towards communal gathering, open discourse, and mentorship that lasts beyond your time at MIT. And we try to challenge misconceptions that surround minority representation and emphasize the importance of diverse communities through dialogues, lecture series, highlighting minority designers. We have a bunch of projects that we'll talk about in a second that that do some of this work for us. But one of the things that we're always super excited about, especially in open houses and when we start to meet prospective students, is that a lot of you may have done work that's very similar to this. And so we love to learn from your experiences and from your time. So hopefully this little slideshow gives you a sense that we are there's a group here that is excited to learn and listen to people like you. And so feel free to reach out to us, and we'll show you how in a moment. Zio, do you want to discuss our past events?
Yeah, so some of the work that Mo was just describing looks like this. We have a power meal series. It was at one point called a power lunch, but things kept happening at other times, which are generally focused around bringing people together in order to talk about various aspects of power in the discipline and ways that people have either like seized or undertaken their own projects relative to power. So the last one that we hosted last semester last fall, maybe, before we went online, what is time, was called Towards a Black and Queer Architecture and Planning, which looked at the ways in which Black and queer spaces exist, specifically in Cambridge, as a part of a larger project that some alumnus of MIT are working on to sort of spatialize these underrepresented identities. We've held Women in Architecture Wikipedia edit-a-thons, lecture series or conversations on women in the city and women in practice. This is all in addition to sort of regular meetings and social gatherings, which are still happening in the Zoom world in the COVID era. And then viewing series with ASC, specifically right over the summer, and then recently a sort of movie series and conversation, in addition to an annual NOMAS lecture, which in the past has included Mabel Wilson, Brian Lee Jr. of Colocate, and then this past spring, Chris and Dominic Leong of Leong Long Architects.
We're
And
currently
then
working on this. Sorry, go ahead.
no, yeah, we're working. We're currently taking our sort of internal conversation on like who we should invite for spring, which has been really exciting. And then so NOMAS is the student sort of organization of the larger NOMA. So NOMA puts on a conference every fall, which we had the opportunity to go to in person last year, and then a bunch of our members attended virtually. But it just sort of opens up this broader network of practitioners and professionals outside of just the academic context and more nationally. And the speakers have always been really great. This year we did not, but last year we entered the student design competition and the project was really awesome. And I think Mo can show you that on our Instagram in a bit. I think that's where it currently lives.
If it's still there, we may have moved it and plan on adding it again. There's also a lot of ongoing work. So this presentation was actually prepared a couple months ago, so it's a little out of date, but it still highlights some of the things we have done. One of them is a really fantastic initiative that was led by Kai Smith, who's the architecture librarian with MIT, and it's basically a living collection of BIPOC designers in both architecture and urban design, and really just BIPOC in the built environment and people who are engaged in the built environment. So that project started over the summer with generous support from both the planning and architecture departments and the dean's office, and continues on as a project that's essentially building a lot of a reference for the entire community. And this is building off of work that was done previously at the GSD and in partnership with the GSD. And it's going to turn into a number of things. For instance, we had a Wikipedia edit-a-thon that was attended by, now that everything is virtual, we had access to people that normally would never be able to engage in these types of projects. So we had really phenomenal, super excited academics from around the world join us, and students and professors and librarians who all participated and continue to participate in this effort. We have work that's ongoing at the moment, like addressing the colonial history of architecture education. And so there's an initiative to reform the overarching syllabus for architecture school. And we have a number of intercampus collaboration efforts. For instance, last year was the first time the Boston NOMAS chapters in other schools like Northeastern was WIT, Mass Art, Harvard, like we all kind of met for the first time and reconnected. We also, when we can, we try to participate with the professional chapter of BOSNOMA, and we've had events with groups like the Architecture Lobby, including, if you don't know them, they're a really phenomenal group of people that are advocating for better labor practices in architecture. And we've had events with them like Ice Cream Socialism, which was a sort of educational event with free ice cream. And this is, I'll show a place where you can find more information on this, but basically over the summer, as a lot of places and a lot of schools especially were doing, is reckoning with the lack of anti-racist action that has been institutionalized in really just architecture education as a whole. We had a number of demands that the students had put together over the summer and put forth with the department. And this has recently been publicized through our website and through our Instagram account. But essentially this was a list of demands that we believed would make the department better. And so far, under the new leadership of Nicholas de Monchaux and his team, a number of efforts have been undertaken to respond to these demands. And so we're really excited about some of the progress that's being done. Some of the work that's being done for the admissions mentorship program and all of the resources that are going to be provided this fall semester are also linked to these demands. So we just wanted to list them here as an indicator of some of the work that is ongoing and will probably continue to go for a while because there's a lot to work on. So I'm not going to go in detail since we're already out of time, so I'm just going to move on to the next part. But I think we just want to end with a general, and this doesn't have to be a conversation here. This can be something you can reach out to later on. Reach out to us later on. We'll include our email. But basically, we would love to hear from you all. If you've participated in NOMAS at your old schools, or if you know of similar groups or initiatives at other places, are there events, practices at your workplace or previous institutions that you found really successful? And we would love to hear more about that. So I will just end. Zio, do you have anything you want to say before I jump to the website?
Oh, sounds good.
Great, thank you. So real quick, we were granted the privilege of having a really simple website URL. So if you ever want to find more information on what NOMAS MIT is doing, it's just nomas.mit.edu. And on the, basically it's a collection of pages that highlight some of the things that we've been working on. So if you click on work, there's a running Google Doc that will actually tell you more detail about what we're working on and whether or not those projects are still active. We have an about page that summarizes our mission statement. It's also where you can find our contact info. So if you ever want to email the NOMAS body, it's nomas@mit.edu. And if you want to just reach out to NOMAS exec, it's nomas-exec@mit.edu. And lastly, here's our Instagram page, which is just instagram.com/nomasmit. And yes, we removed our competition entry for the conference from last year, but we'll re-add that. I think we were just updating the drawings. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was incredible. So I know we said initially that we would have questions in a big group, but I think it may be better just to move to breakout rooms. Before I do that, I missed a bunch of things that I needed to say at the beginning because I got caught up in the moment. First, I want to thank the staff that are here, Chris Jenkins for being our MC, Darren and Cynthia Stewart. I don't know where you all are, but yeah, I see some of you. Thank you so much for being here. And I don't know if Gina's here as well. But they are super knowledgeable about all of our programs. So I think they will stay in the main room and they can answer any questions that we may have when we come back together, sort of larger questions. I also wanted to say that there is an ACT and BT open house. I can't remember the dates, but it's on the, if someone could drop the open house website in the chat, that would be great. So if you're interested in either of those programs, 2 or 3 years of experience in practice, or if not straight from undergrad, but maybe the people who are coming without a background in architecture or do something maybe more architecture adjacent, come in from all different walks of life, and I think the non-background folks tend to contribute to more of the age range in our programs. Yeah, we also talked about the culture of MIT, which is good. It's good. I'm glad you all talked about that. Room 5, Ginevra, Emma. Last, do you have anything?
Emma, do you want to start doing feedback?
Sure. We spoke a bit about kind of what our intentions were coming to MIT, whether we had them or we didn't, and how this kind of set us up for what we might want to do afterwards. That's one thing that we talked about. But if anyone has anything else to add.
We also spoke about MIT culture, whether faculty cared about us or not, and concluded that if we cannot speak about single faculty, we definitely feel that the overall architecture department cares about us and that our voice is heard, and that the scale of the school actually allows for that to happen much better, I think, than in most other settings. And so that we at the end, we do matter.
And also the exchange between programs, which is also happening now, like even through Zoom, which is great.
So I have 1 minute left. It was extremely exciting to meet all of you, actually. Generally, like I felt revitalized after our breakout room. And feel free to reach to us. Like, don't fear of that at all. Just email us with any questions or concern. The lovely staff at MIT is awesome. So if you have any question, you can also reach out to them. And really thank you all for coming and for participating in this. And don't be scared to apply. We were all there. We were all scared, but we came through, so it's possible. If anyone else has any last word, feel free to jump in. But thank you, Darren. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Gina. Thank you so much.
And selfishly, one last plug for the BT, that's Building Technology Open House event this Wednesday. There's not a lot of time to sign up, so please do that. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Very nice seeing you.
Thank you so much.